Hi, dancers. Welcome back to Conversations with the Pros. Tonight, I am chatting with dancer Ashley Liu. We have a couple announcements before we get going. Conversations with the Pros is actually taking a little bit of a hiatus until the summer so that I can gear down for a couple fun projects that I have coming for you. So stay tuned for all that. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Ashley. Where are you that it's so sunny and beautiful?
I'm in the Sunset Recreation Center at UCLA.
Oh my gosh, gorgeous.
It's really pretty today, so I thought I'd go outside.
Yeah, it looks it. I mean, UCLA is a gorgeous school in general, but it looks like you've got nice weather today, which is great.
Yes.
Well, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, same. I'm really looking forward to connecting. I would love for you to give us an introduction about who you are, your journey.
I'm Ashley again. For those of you who don't know me, I have been dancing since I was 3 years old. It's always been a passion of mine. I started strictly doing ballet around 6 or 7. And that's where like my passion for pursuing ballet in particular started.
Mhm.
When I was 12, I competed at YGP and made it to the final round where I was offered a full scholarship to study at the Academy of Princess Grace. I also received the gold medal that year, so that was really exciting. Um, that's when I feel like my like professional mindset really began because there was a plan set out. It was like going to college for ballet, um,
Mhm.
and the future was really bright. That whole year was an absolutely incredible experience. I wouldn't have traded it for anything. I learned so much. I met so many people. I learned a lot about who I am as a dancer, and as we'll get into, nutrition and how I was able to feed my body without my parents kind of helping me with that. Um,
Mhm.
but then after that year, I left the academy. I wanted to be closer to home. My mom also thought that was the wise idea. I was 13, so very reasonable.
Mhm.
Um, and then I just spent some time at home, regrouping, reconnecting with friends. I started a normal high school. I still trained at Southland Ballet Academy, will always be my home studio. They're amazing. And then after that, for a little bit, I went to study during the summer at like Ellison Ballet and for Houston Ballet for a short amount of time, which was absolutely incredible as well. Um, and then after that, I stayed home. I started training with a private coach and again at Southland. Did YGP again, did Spotlight, um, Young Arts, amazing opportunities. And then I am somehow here at UCLA now. That was
Awesome.
kind of a quick overview.
Yeah. So just to back up a little bit, I really want to dive into your time abroad at the young age of 13 because that is definitely on the young side. Most of the dancers I've had on this show, and it's been 2 years already, a lot of them have gone abroad, but usually it's closer to like the 17-year mark, 17-year-old mark. So you're 13, you do incredible at YGP. You get this scholarship to Princess Grace. Talk to me about the decision making with your parents and how that all went down.
Yes. I would like to say I'm very convincing because my mom definitely didn't want to let me go. And looking
Mm,
back, I completely understand that. At the time, as a little, not bratty 13-year-old, but a little know it all 13-year-old, I was like, no, I've got this. I can live on my
mm-hmm.
own. I want to pursue my dreams. Like, this is what's going to get me there. And I had a very strict mindset and a very closed mindset of like, this
Yeah.
is my way or the highway. Like, we are going to do this. So I spent like all summer convincing my mom. From that time I got the scholarship until um, still throughout, I went and spent the summer at Princess Grace when I was 12
Mm-hmm.
without them as well. So that whole time I like turned 13 there, still convincing my mom, like, this is the best thing ever. This is like amazing. You know, like they have amazing teachers here. Like I'm gonna go here. And somehow by the end of that summer course, I had convinced her that this is where I was gonna go spend the next year. I don't know
Yeah.
how it happened. We prayed a lot about it. It was a big decision for our family, and it was definitely a hard one. Not just for her, but also for me. um, when the time came to say goodbye, it was definitely a reality check of like, whoa, like my mom is leaving me now. I remember, I will never forget this moment as I was hugging her for the last time, and I was just like, this is real. Like, I'm gonna actually be on my own
Yeah.
now.
And
So,
I mean, 13 is such a vulnerable age for dancers. So I
definitely.
understand her perspective and the perspective that you now understand, obviously being older than
Yes.
you were, in regards to that being a very challenging time in not just a dancer, but really like anyone's life, because there's so many changes happening, changes with our body, changes with our mindset, and it can be also a time, very impressionable time, to be in such an intense environment when it
Yes.
comes to dance. So my next question is, when it came to food, when it came to fueling your body, was it at that time that you realized, like, hey, I'm using my body a lot right now, I need to start figuring out how to fuel it, eat more? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. It was definitely hard to figure that out. The food at the time, at Princess Grace was not the best.
Hmm.
Um, I Before I went there, I was eating a lot of home food, and I didn't really have to think about it because my mom um would just give it to me. But at Princess Grace, I felt like there was limited, and I didn't notice that until a little bit into the program where I was like, okay, like my body was feeling a little down, or not as energized as it used to. So that was
Sure.
definitely a learning curve. I never believed in cutting anything out. That's
Hmm.
something my mom taught me from a very young age. So that was a good thing to have on my shoulders, but it definitely took some time of like, okay, so how much is the right portion that my body needs? What's going to make me feel good? Like, yes, I can eat everything, but how much of what is going to benefit me?
Yeah, that's such a really great point. So first of all, doing that at 13 years old is not easy, right?
Not
Because
easy
like
at
I
all.
said,
No.
there's so many changes happening. Your
Yes.
baseline is constantly fluctuating between the ages of like 13, I would say even up to like 25. So like that exploration of figuring out what works for your body, what foods feel good, what amounts of foods feel good, rather than, let's just say, like an external source, like for example a googled meal plan telling you what you should and should not eat. Those are the things that we try to avoid, or what I encourage dancers to avoid, because they're so regimented. It's important that dancers, especially younger dancers, take that trial and error almost, right? Like patience with themselves, what it sounds like you had to do, in regards to figuring out what is working and perhaps what isn't working.
Yes, I am definitely one of those who is like Googling, okay, what's a good meal plan? That did
Right.
not work for me.
Sure.
I can tell you
Hmm.
right now that did not work for me.
Hmm.
But
Yes, yes. And for all the dancers listening, be weary of what you are Googling. I always encourage, and it's a subtle plug, I do have a blog, dancenutrition.com, where I go through pretty much every tip under the sun for how dancers can fuel their body in a sustainable way rather than in a restrictive way. So highly recommend that for any of the dancers
I
listening, but I'm
recommend
not,
that too. Go look
yeah.
at her blog. It's amazing.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. So, okay. So you realized throughout that year that you were really homesick and you wanted to head home. Totally understandable at 13. But talk to us about that process as well, because that's something that's really challenging for a lot of dancers. I talk about this a lot actually in regards to our environments, and for different reasons. Like for you, it was, sounds like the main reason was being homesick. For different reasons, it can be very challenging for a dancer to change the environment that they're in, and you took that leap to actually leave because you were homesick. So tell us about that.
Okay. At first, it was a little bit against my will, I will say. I'm
Okay.
not even gonna lie.
Sure. Sure.
Looking back, my mom made the correct decision for me as an individual. I got so lost in loving the classes every day, getting to take 4 or 5 ballet classes in 2 hours on point, this and that. And my little ballerina nerd inside was just, so excited. But my mom actually was the one who recognized my mental health wasn't where it should be. She could tell that because of my mental health, my body was also not giving me the energy I needed. to continue dancing to the level that I wanted to be.
Yeah.
Although I did improve, it was definitely like she could tell I was a little more yellow, she said, because I wasn't getting some of the nutrients that she knew I needed and was helping guide me to know what to give my body. And then also my mental state. And I was with people who were, I mean, it was like teenagers raising teenagers. Um,
Yeah.
I didn't have a strong parental person by my side when I got home. When I got home, I would, if I was having a tough day, it'd be just myself and my mom
Yeah.
on a broken FaceTime call trying to comfort me. And that was really difficult for us because my mom is my best friend. Like, we were talking about this other week, actually. She was like, I raised you as my best friend, didn't I? I was like, yeah, pretty much. Like, we're two peas in a pod. We do not like being apart, number one. So that was an adjustment to how she was parenting me from 6,000 miles away. So she was the one who recognized it first. I didn't know it because I was so caught up in the glory of the school, which absolutely is amazing.
Yeah.
But she realized it wasn't the right place for me. So she was like, Ashley, I think it's time to come home. And of course, I missed her. But it took a little convincing. Even when I got home, I was like, what is going on? Like, that was
Yeah.
my dream. But in the end, looking back, it took me a while, but she really did pull me out of a situation where I could have gone down a bad road with food, my mental health, and the person I would have become.
Wow. Honestly, I applaud your mom for really taking that leap. And I applaud you too, actually, for listening to her and accepting that there were declines. Specifically, I want to focus on your mental health because that's not something that is really spoken about at the elite level. And it should be. And, things are actually starting to change a bit. We're talking about it a little bit more, but especially at the pre professional elite level for dancers. The emotional and mental bearing of the training that we dancers do is so extreme that if you don't have that support at the end of the day, if you're coming home, like you said, and it's just you and there's perhaps not as much connection for you to maybe even just like vent about your day, to reflect about your day, that can be super challenging.
Yes, agreed, 100%.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So thank you so much for telling us about that because I really do feel like maybe some other younger dancers listening could, either relate to that and perhaps assess whether or not they can build a support system. And if they don't have that support system, then a change is encouraged because,
Yeah,
like you said, you were headed down a road that wasn't going to be great for your relationship with both yourself and your plate.
yeah, very true.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Ashley.
Of course.
So, talk to us a little bit about COVID and how things went with the quarantine, where you were.
Ooh, that feels like ages ago.
2 years, 2 years,
Yes, it's
over
only
two
been
years.
2 years, but it
Mm-hmm.
feels like forever. That was hard. That was, I will not lie, that is probably one of the hardest times that I've had with dance. Um, I was doing Instagram lives every day. Thank goodness for the internet.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting. I felt like we were all feeling a little bit alone in that time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I am so grateful for the internet, though. I feel like it helped bring us together. I struggled a lot with, um, I think, oh, I want to say like almost comparing myself to how I was before COVID.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like I was just like, I'm declining. I was like, this is it. This is the end. I'm going to be dancing in my living room for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
It was really discouraging at times, but something that helped really was doing these Instagram lives, bringing together community, talking to people on FaceTime, on the internet. I feel like that's one of the things that kept me going because we all felt so isolated. Um, and that is never how I feel like we should be, especially as ballerinas. In in particular, we are already pretty alone in our um, profession. I
Yeah.
feel like it's definitely less teamwork than if you're at a competitive studio, because you are your only competition. You're the one going on stage doing your own variation all the time, pretty much. So it was already tough to feel alone and then to really be isolated from even my classmates that I love taking classes with in person. Um, yeah,
Absolutely.
that was a little tough.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to that idea of connection and um, connection playing a pretty big role in our ability to sustain the like I said before, the heavy weight of dance in general, because it
Yeah,
is such a high pressured environment. So being able to bounce that off of others is very helpful. And I agree that was a huge challenge for a lot of dancers. One thing that you brought up though that doesn't get enough airtime and I think is really important is the idea of dancers comparing themselves to their previous self versus we often talk about comparisons like to other dancers in the room, but it's very common, especially for again going back to the pre-professional dance level, that dancers are comparing themselves especially to their like prepubescent self a lot of times like those years where the body just naturally changes, obviously a very natural biological process that needs to happen for our strength, our health, and so much more. But a lot of dancers will fall into habits of comparing themselves to for example, the body they had prior to those changes. And this is why we see a lot of rates of disordered eating, even eating disorders spike um,
yeah,
towards those later teenage years. So you bring up a really good point. How can we move away from even not just comparing ourselves to other dancers in the room, but comparing ourselves to our previous selves, even in a situation where it's like we're dancing less, like with the
hmm,
quarantine.
yes. I could not agree with that more. I am one who does look back on videos and myself guilty of it. Um,
Mm,
it's a really hard habit to break. Sometimes I do look back, and it's normal to feel sad that my
yeah.
body can't do that anymore. I think that's a healthy um, emotion to feel okay, like my body maybe can't be as flexible as that before, but look, I'm healthy. I can dance. My body works. Um, I am in a good place in life right now. Like, yeah, like my body was very different back then, but look at what I can do now. I have different strengths and stuff now that my body has changed and matured.
Yes, 100%. And even for myself, now being 32 after having two kids, I am not dancing nearly as much as I danced a decade ago. And seeing what I was able to do a decade ago versus what I can do now, there is a certain level of grief that we experience. And I agree, coming to terms with that is something that's really important. We don't want to just ignore that. But at the same time, and what I want to bring out here is like, you're also what else are you gaining from that time? Like you're gaining so much, not even just as a dancer but like as a human being, you know what I mean, like whether it's like your
Yes.
social life, your family relationships and so forth. So which leads me to my next question. You're now at UCLA. How are you, maintaining balance really as a dancer and moving through life?
Yes. Um, Balance is my number one priority in life. That is definitely something I struggled with before. There was a little bit of imbalance in prioritizing dance so much that I didn't have a social life
Right.
to the extent that I wanted to. Now it's going really well. I'm
Awesome.
taking classes, ballet classes 3 times a week. I still try to go to the gym every day. I need my body to move. If not, I
Yeah.
like can't sleep at night. I'm a little like, oh, I need to go like jump rope or like do something fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've really tried to make exercise something fun for me to do. And the first quarter here with ballet, I will definitely say it was hard. Because I had just come back from an injury and I had a little bit of a negative outlook on my body, what it could do at the moment, um, and coming back to also a school that I wasn't used to the teachers and stuff. That was a big change for me.
Sure.
Um, and I did not like ballet for a quick minute there. I had
Mm.
a very hard time being like, so what am I training for? Like, what is my next goal? why am I taking these classes? Am I doing it just because my friends are in these classes? Or is it because I really love ballet? And last quarter was such a cool moment for me. There was one day I just was like, I am preventing myself from loving what I'm doing because I'm comparing myself to what I used to be able to do. And I was like, look, I love ballet. Like, no matter if I get to perform on a stage right now or whatever I'm working for, like, I love moving my body and I love being in these classes and I love the bar and like the little, I just love doing tondus. Like, I was just finding joy in the little things.
Yeah.
And that joy of dancing came back, which was really cool. So now I'm really happy in my classes. And I have a great balance of doing academics. I'm taking really cool classes. I'm actually taking a management class, which is my first like major class. I'm a biz econ major. So
Mm,
that was very exciting for me this quarter. It's only week one here, so
yeah.
I'm still getting used to it. But the past quarters have been great as well. I loved all my teachers. I met really cool people. I have a really good balance of dance friends and school friends, and they're all merging together, which is amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I definitely can relate college life. I started my college career as a dance major and ended up shifting to actually majoring in nutrition and dietetics,
Oh,
hence
cool.
why I'm here now doing
Yes.
this. But I agree, this need of I also experienced a time where like ballet just when I didn't know what I was going for, like if there wasn't like this performance to work for, I was questioning like what am I doing this for? It took me time to realize that, and it sounds like you had a similar situation. It took me time to realize that like I can dance and I can do ballet just because it makes me feel happy. Like
Yes.
just because it makes me feel good and it makes me feel happy. And that's okay too.
Yes. I love that. Yeah, that's such a good moment. It was such a good moment for me. I don't know what the future of ballet holds, but I still want to continue doing it no matter what the situation is. Right now, of course, I feel like I'm a little more focused on my academics, but I am definitely keeping ballet as one of my priorities here.
Yes, that's awesome. I experience a very similar situation, so I love relating about that.
Yeah.
Well, my final question to you is, and I think this would be really cool to hear about your perspective now as a college student who is, still like you said, wanting to keep a foot in the dance world, wanting to keep a foot in the general world as well, just for that balance. How would you define what it means to be the healthy dancer?
Um, I would really say to have a good balance. That
Mm,
is something I wish I would have started doing earlier in my dance career and in my social life. Your friends are the people who are going to cheer you on. Your family's always going to be there for you. So invest time in them, invest time in the people you love, because at the end of the day, that's who you have to cheer you
yeah.
on and push you forward.
Yes. Ashley, thank you so much. Your insight was so beautiful tonight. I loved hearing about everything you had to say, and I loved connecting with you.
Yes, I'm so glad we finally got to meet.